There may have been many fan-favorite moments from the books that didn't make the movies, but there were some awesome scenes from the movies that were never in the books. Harry Potter is one of the biggest franchises of all time, and whether you prefer the books or the movies, it is hard to find anyone who doesn't wish they were a witch or wizard, or their letter from Hogwarts was just lost in the mail and it will come any day now. There are many moments, characters, and sequences from the books that didn't make it into the movie, and that might be down to limitations of time and money. But there are some great scenes that were in the movies that actually never happened in the books. While you may know the books inside and out, you may have forgotten that some of these scenes only exist in the movies. In this video, we'll take a look at some of these best scenes, ranging from the funniest to the most heartbreaking. From emotional backstories, awkward moments between teacher and student, and heart-wrenching lines of dialogue.
Expecto Patronum!
We'll get in our broomsticks and fly through one of the biggest movie series of all time. One's up! Number 1. Voldemort and Dumbledore Duel. One of the best moments of the Harry Potter series is when Dumbledore enters the Ministry of Magic building to take on Voldemort in a master versus pupil moment. The level of intimidation and badassery in Dumbledore's entrance is enough to give you chills, and judging by Voldemort's face, he kind of feels it too, thinking he might have just made a major mistake. Just like a dog chasing a car and catching it, only to find out it's the most powerful wizard in the world. That's how that analogy goes, right? What happens next is a brilliant one-on-one duel with the two engaging in a game of deadly chess, or a normal game of chess in the wizarding world, as they fire off curses at one another. While this scene does take place in the book, it is far more extended in the movie, with it turning into an epic confrontation in the same vein as Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader in A New Hope. The tension is palpable, and us muggles can only watch in awe as we see the two most powerful wizards duke it out in a battle of good versus evil. Number 2. Harry and Hermione's dance. One of the sweetest moments in the series comes in a scene between Harry and Hermione in Deathly Hallows Part 1. After being deserted by their best friend Ron, Harry and Hermione sit in their tent looking as downtrodden as fans of Firefly after its early cancellation. Sorry guys, it's just not coming back. But just as the duo look like they're at their lowest, Harry and Hermione dance together in a tender and heartwarming scene. This scene doesn't happen in the books, and with the loss of Ron being a somber stretch, this scene makes so much sense in the movie, seeing as how we watch these two grow up before our eyes and we feel connected to the characters. While some interpret this as a romantic scene between the two, that doesn't make sense in the overall narrative. Although with the amazing chemistry between the two, you can understand why Ron was a teeny bit jealous. But this scene serves as a moment of light relief where the teens can just forget about their troubles and just be young and carefree. And when your troubles are being hunted down by an evil dark wizard who wants to kill you, it might be a good idea to blow off some steam every once in a while. And to think when I was a teenager, my biggest trouble was figuring out why my crush didn't text me back. I'm starting to think she didn't like me. Number 3. Harry confronts Snape. One of the most devastating moments in the Harry Potter series is the death of our favorite mentor Albus Dumbledore at the hands of his trusted colleague Severus Snape. Dumbledore's death was heartbreaking, with it having a huge emotional toll on the characters, especially due to the nature of the betrayal. While readers knew that Snape was actually acting on the orders of Dumbledore to protect Draco Malfoy, moviegoers were left in the dark, and so of course were the characters. So when his closest pupil Harry gets the chance to confront his killer, that's exactly what he does. This scene doesn't actually happen in the books, with Harry safely under the cover of the invisibility cloak as Snape battles with 3 Hogwarts teachers. But the scene works out perfectly in the movie, and you can feel the anger bubbling as Harry launches an angry tirade at Snape.
A man who trusted you and killed him.
But what makes this scene even more powerful is the brilliantly nuanced performance by Alec Rickman as Snape, who you can see is conflicted with an array of emotions and trying to remain in character as a loyal Death Eater, even though he was Team Dumbledore all along. If anything, this scene just goes to show you how great Alan Rickman is, and there is nothing wrong with that. Number 4. Nice one, James. Harry may be the chosen one, but one thing that has always weighed heavily on our souls is the loss of his parents. Luckily for him, he did manage to have a pseudo-father figure with his godfather, Sirius Black. But unluckily for him, their relationship was cut short after his death at the hands of his own cousin, Bellatrix Lestrange. What makes it more heartbreaking is Sirius's final words. As Harry and Sirius end up dueling with Lucius Malfoy and his luscious golden hair, Harry uses the Expelliarmus move to disarm Lucius, to which Sirius says, "Nice one, James."
Nice one, James!
Referring of course to his best friend and Harry's father. Throughout the series, characters note Harry's likeness to his father, except for his mother's eyes of course, and Harry feels attached to him through his physical traits, and he seems touched by Sirius calling him James. But what is more poignant is that it allows Sirius to relive the good old days and fight side by side with his dearest friend. This makes sense, as his life effectively ended with the death of James, with the majority of his life spent afterwards in Azkaban prison being framed for the murder of the Potters, which if it were real, would make for a great Netflix docuseries. It's a touching moment, but as the Harry Potter series tends to do, you're hit with an emotional blow like a bludger to the chest by Sirius's death moments later. Number 5. McGonagall teaches Ron how to dance. Okay, we've had an emotional couple of minutes right here, so let's lighten up for a bit. If you're like me, one of your biggest fears was having to pair up or do a demonstration with the teacher because everyone is either paired off or your best friend is vacationing in Ecuador. I will never forgive you for that, Chris. Well, apparently wizards are no different, with a hilarious moment taking place between Ron and Professor McGonagall. As McGonagall teaches her students about the customs of the Yuletide Ball, she picks Ron to accompany her for a demonstration on dancing, and the result is hilarious. Rupert Grint's expressions are priceless and are perfectly accurate for a teenager made to do anything slightly embarrassing. And of course, it wouldn't be an awkward teenage moment without your siblings there to mock you throughout. It comes at a turning point in the series as it becomes a lot more serious, but this moment provides some comic relief, as well as showing McGonagall's sick moves out on the dance floor. Dance off with Star-Lord, anyone? Number 6. Aragog's funeral. A funeral isn't usually a place to inject moments of comic relief, but when you throw an inebriated Harry Potter into the mix, the results can be hysterical. The scene in question is the funeral of Hagrid's overgrown arachnid acquaintance Aragog. While Harry takes Felix Felicius, try saying that 10 times fast, also known as Liquid Luck, in order to entice a memory out of Professor Slughorn in the books, the scene in the movie is altered by Daniel Radcliffe's performance. The funniest moment comes when Harry proceeds to do an impression of the giant spider, pincers and all. While it may not be the most appropriate to do an impression of the deceased at a funeral, this moment serves as another moment of comic relief in an otherwise emotionally taxing movie. It also allows Radcliffe to show off his comic acting chops and allows his awkward charm to shine on a character that he often plays straight. Also, to be fair, Harry has a right to beef with Aragog after he did set his children after Harry and Ron to eat them. Number 7. But I'm the Chosen One. Another piece of comic relief at the hands of Radcliffe comes in a banter-filled exchange between Harry and Hermione. Harry often tries to shy away from the limelight and his celebrity status, unlike me when I try to get verified after getting 10 likes on Instagram. But in a rare moment, Harry makes light of his notoriety after he learns that fellow student Romilda Vane has a thing for him. You just wait till she sees his spider impression. I mean, ladies, form an orderly line, please! Hermione warns Harry that she thinks he is the chosen one, to which Harry gives a wit-filled reply saying that he is the chosen one. Let's be honest, being the chosen one does look good in your Tinder profile, or whatever the wizarding equivalent is. The scene doesn't take place in the books, but let's face it, sometimes it's just good to see teenagers being teenagers, and also, as mentioned earlier, an evil wizard wants to kill him. He needs to laugh sometimes. Also, for anyone who can think of a funny wizarding Tinder equivalent, please let me know in the comments below, because my mind has drawn a blank. Number 8. Hermione wipes her parents' memories. Speaking of minds drawing a blank, okay, I'm sorry, that was a horrible transition. Moving back to the emotional gut punches, yay! In a beautiful yet horrifically sad scene, we see Hermione obliviating her parents and wiping their memory. While we do know this happens in the books, to actually see it play out is a completely different emotional reaction, and to see Hermione's heartbreak is devastating. It also really sets up the stakes of the movie by showing you everything the teenagers are giving up. It also sets the tone of the movie and lets you know that this isn't going to be a fun-filled experience, and seeing as it ends with Dobby dying, I think the tone is encapsulated pretty well. Still not over it, man. Number 9. Slughorn's Story of Lily. As we mentioned earlier, Harry has an empty void in his heart left by the death of his parents, meaning he relishes hearing any story anyone can tell about them. In an added scene that wasn't in the books, as Harry acquires the memory from Slughorn, he recounts a touching story of his relationship with his mother Lily. Slughorn tells Harry that Lily created a fish out of the petal of a lily flower for him, which disappeared upon her death. Slughorn holds his best students in high regard, and in a brilliant performance from Jim Broadbent, you can see how much Lily meant to Slughorn on an emotional level, but it also serves to show how much Harry has missed out on, with his experiences with his parents only coming through stories from others and near-death experiences. It is also more poignant, as it shows how much empathy Lily had to those around her, and the reason she died was protecting the person she loved the most, her son, Harry. I'm not crying, I must just have some flu powder in my eye. Number 10. Wands Up. We have already discussed the emotional toll of Dumbledore's death on his students and colleagues, and of course, us as the audience. His death was a faithful adaptation of the books, but the moments that happens directly after is something that was added for the purpose of the movie. The books show Dumbledore's funeral, but in the movie, they decided to go with a simpler yet still emotional gesture, with the students lifting up their wands into the air and lighting up the sky in a touching tribute and show of unity amongst the violence and heartbreak. While it may be a smaller gesture than the book, it is no less emotional and had me crying harder than the time I stepped on a piece of Lego, because that's just the power Harry Potter had on us, as whether it be in book or movie form, the Wizarding World will continue to charm us mere muggles for years to come. What was your favorite scene that wasn't in the books? What was the moment from the books you wished were in the movies? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more magical content.